Step 3, you grow hard about what you want to be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up.
Welcome to Tales from the Field. My name is Bradley Paul, and it is so good to have you with us. We are back and better than ever. Now, this is a recording, not a live show, because right now we are at Live 360. Josh, this is the moment we've been waiting for. You've got your bacon donut from Voodoo Donuts. All the good things in the world are right and happening. And so we are coming to you in a pre-recorded session because we love the Azure data community, and we still wanted to get a roundtable out celebrating the creators in the community. So last week we had Don't Skip These Post Configuration Steps, a guide for developers and DBAs and Azure SQL Managed Instance by Mr. Daniel Taylor. Then on Tuesday, we had our Azure Data Community Roundtable. On Wednesday, we released Microsoft Fabric Data Pipeline Service Principal Support. And then on Monday, I took over for Dan Taylor with SQL Server for Beginners. How does the Query Optimizer work? Dan will be taking over for me with a Fabric Wednesday video. So good luck, Dan. I know you got this, buddy. So much to see, so much to do. You don't want to miss a thing. If this is your first time finding your way over to Tales from the Field, give us a like and give us a subscribe. We drop content every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. On Monday, we have an MS Tech Bits. On Tuesday, we have our Azure Data Community Roundtable. That's this show where we celebrate the creators in the Azure Data community for the Azure Data community. And then on Wednesday, we have another MS Tech Bits. You don't want to miss a thing. And if you want to interact with the show, it's so easy to do so. You can't interact with this one, but typically on Tuesday, we will be live. And the way you interact is you make a comment and we add it to the screen. One of my amazing co-hosts will do so because we stream every Tuesday. Well, almost every Tuesday. We will have a break coming up for Thanksgiving, but then we'll be back the week after that. And the way it works is my amazing co-host will add those comments to the screen, and then you're a part of the show. Speaking of those amazing co-hosts, I am joined by Mr. Andreas Padilla. Mr. Daniel Taylor is still out on his wonderful mountain vacation. Make sure you watch the Away from the Shorts that he's doing. The man in a hat himself, Mr. Josh Luedeman. And Bruno Mars, forget Uptown. Neeraj Jhaveri will funk you up. That's right. It's your friend and mine, Mr. Neeraj Jhaveri. Quick call to action. Why are we here? Well, we're here because we're a part of the Azure Data community. So what do we want you to do? We want you to head over to the Microsoft site for the Azure Data community and check that out. Make sure and find a user group where you can commiserate with people. You can find solutions to problems you may have. You may even be able to find your next and future job. It's all about that networking, right, baby? We got to get that networking going, Andreas, right? And then once you network there, of course, where do you want to go? You want to go to get some free training, which me and all of my colleagues end up going to and presenting for you. And of course, I'm talking about SQL Saturdays. We all had a great time at Jacksonville this past year. We're looking forward to more SQL Saturdays in 2024 and coming up. These would have already happened in Washington. We got Sao Paulo coming up later in November. Lima, Atlanta BI edition in February 2024. And you can see there's Jacksonville in May 2024. And of course, while you're looking for that free training, there's another fantastic location to go to, Data Saturdays. These are wonderful online events from around the world where you can find training from Microsoft employees, MVPs, some of the top consultants and people working in the field out there to help you understand your different technological solutions. And then, of course, if you're looking at learning, we want you to go over and join our Fabric Learning group over on LinkedIn. Such a wonderful place. It's free. It's easy to join. We have a lot of wonderful people posting their blogs, posting questions. You can see there's a great post by our good buddy, Kevin Chant, letting people know the wonderful things that he's doing in Microsoft Fabric. Ooh, that was a mouthful. Andreas, how are you doing? You're looking at a weekend because we're actually taping this on a Friday. It's going live on a Tuesday, but what are your plans this weekend, my friend?
Oh, first of all, I'm a little nervous that we're messing with the space-time continuum, doing this thing that we're be careful, Brad, You're
not wrong.
Yeah. And then
if the Avengers can do it, we can pull it off. Just saying.
We can do it. Okay.
Well, I was going to say, if they taught us anything, Back to the Future is both.
Yeah. It's a truck full of cow manure, just like they got dumped on Biff. There you go.
Absolutely. Oh, what a great scene.
Yeah.
Harkens back to,
Which one?
you know,
Which time?
well, and I was going to say the fact that they called it, they were just a couple years off, but they called it with the Cubs winning the World Series.
Mhm.
If that's missing with the space-time continuum, I'm down for another win in my lifetime.
Oh,
I'm good with one though.
I was talking about which time that they dropped manure on Biff or one of his descendants. I mean, that was the ongoing joke. Every single movie, a Tannen wore manure every time.
I was going to say it all gets back to, bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if that has something to do with the space-time continuum. That was an infinity stone they were definitely missing.
Yep.
But enough of that, those hijinks. We're talking about infinity stones and things that rule the world. So let's go to someone who rules and always has stellar and amazing content. And of course, I'm talking about Mr. Neeraj Jhaveri, who's up first with Fabric Warehouse news you need to know. What do I need to know, Neeraj?
Yep. One thing that Andreas will definitely miss you up. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Or I may have lost.
Yeah.
You good? Okay.
We can hear.
I mean, Andreas will definitely miss you up in Orlando Live 360. So if you have time, just come down. Anyway, on this article, what Dennis is trying to say is there are a few things that you need to understand. One, clone tables was introduced, but there are a few glitches here and there. He's trying to show you up what things you need to know while you're accessing Fabric, because some of the documentation says something, and he's trying to point it out that when you create a clone table, even the data gets moved around with it. Then he is pointing a few of the glitches that are going on right now, and that is getting worked as because Fabric is going to go to different iterations to get it ready for GA. So there are a few things that are happening in there. He's putting it up for people to know upfront that if you see something like this, you should be aware of it. It's going to be changing as we speak with the documentation, what they were saying it up in there. So that is what he's trying to point it out. And as users or your people who are trying to adopt Fabric, this would be a good way to look at it.
Absolutely. No, I love that. And he summarizes a lot of things in a very beautiful way. Some things that we haven't even had time to be able to get to. The SP rename, that's huge, right? That's functionality that you're going to need, especially as you're potentially making these clone databases, and you want to be able to make sure that you've got your data and you go, hey, what are we calling this? There's always going to be a dev environment. There's going to be an alias that you have for certain things. And that's key functionality that you need. So I love the list of things. Speaking of a wonderful list, I was up next and I had Pragati John, and Pragati has an absolutely amazing blog exploring Fabric SQL endpoints, data, and model view. And what I love about this is normally you would think it's going to be a blog, but it is incredibly visual. One of the things she does is she goes through, she looks at the different pane of information, and she does a step-by-step analysis of this is what this is. This is what this is on the page. Here's how you get to these things. We're looking at the SQL endpoint. We're looking at the model view. We're looking at the way that we build different relationships, the way that we get the cardinality to go, the properties map that we have. And so all the visualizations that if you're not a Power BI person, you might not be extremely familiar with these, that you now have as these capabilities. The disconnected nature of how things used to be is the way of the past. It used to be, right, we had a system where we ran SQL and then we pulled it into Power BI and we created our semantic model. No longer. Now we can have our SQL endpoint for our data warehousing and create the semantic model off of it, off of that data as it resides, so we can have those direct lake queries feeding to our Power BI reports and getting that real-time update. Absolutely fantastic stuff. And I really, really was happy to find a great blog by Pragati like that. Speaking of great stuff, when I think of this next person, of course, I am thinking of great because they always deliver. And of course, you know who I'm talking about, Mr. Andreas Padilla. How you to improve your computer vision model. Andreas, what do we got here?
Oh, great article by Jacob Witt. Thank you for putting this out there. He comes to us and he talks to us about what kind of mindset, what kind of hat you want to, put on when you're starting on your vision your vision AI models, how to keep it simple. And I love this article. It's one of the best ones I've seen out there. He talks to us about, he breaks it down. He's like, when you're starting off, keep the problem simple. If you're trying to do, if a human can detect an object or in an image, so can an AI model. But don't go crazy on this. You start with very simple. If you're trying to detect 200 different fruits in an image, start with 2. Don't immediately go to 200. So you're going to incrementally build up your model to be able to be as robust as it can. But there are situations where you're asking maybe too much. If you're trying to he puts a great example in there. If you're trying to detect different components in a circuit board, and you're trying to detect all of them at the same time, you're going to get a little bit of, you're going to start living in the weeds because it can get funky. Last couple of things, my favorite thing here that he talks to us about is labeling tips, which I found very nicely done. Labeling is actually one of the critical steps when it comes to vision AI models. All in all, read it. Great guidance. It puts those bowling bumpers up for you. Keeps you honest.
I love the bowling bumpers. I went bowling with Serenity a couple weeks ago. We had a daddy-daughter day, and it was one of those things of her growing up that always kind of tugs at your heartstrings. She doesn't need them anymore. It just it breaks your world. Like it makes you look at things in a new way, in a kind of awe-setting way. And speaking of the way that it's just revolutionary, this next speaker is always revolutionary. The way that they present and the links that they come through with the Azure data community. And of course, I'm talking about the man in the hat, Mr. Josh Luedeman, revolutionizing things with Data Mozart, working with tables in Microsoft Fabric Lakehouse, everything you need to know.
Yeah, and this is a great article. Yeah, this is a great article from Nicola, because it goes into, for a lot of folks who are especially transitioning from a relational data warehouse into something more data lake based, getting into Spark, things like that for the first time. What he actually does is he goes into this and starts talking about the differences in tables, because if you're used to a relational data warehouse, relational database data warehouse, there's just tables, right? It's whether or not it's partitioned. And what really becomes a factor here with Fabric, and when you start talking about, more of the larger scale analytics solutions, is you get into what's, in this case, again, what he's referring to is managed tables and unmanaged tables, or external tables. And the nice thing is he goes into there, lays the groundwork for the tables, also some of the gotchas around those, being, which one's just a structure, the other one's more structure and data, and really goes through all of that, how it appears, how the data is stored in the lake house and things like that, and in one lake. So great article, great to get you up and running, with Fabric and really understanding what you're looking at.
Awesome. And of course, when I think of awesome, I can't help but think of this next man. Of course, I am speaking of the one, the only, Mr. Neeraj Jhaveri, announcing improvements to CSV and data ingestion in Synapse Data Warehouse in Microsoft Fabric. Neeraj, what are these improvements?
So every people who are working on ETL type jobs, bringing in the data, CSV was the hardest part. You always have performance issue because that would always have moving the CSV file into copy data would always the lowest part of it. So what we are introducing is a CSV file parser version 2.0, which goes really faster. It shows you the whole thing, how this is going to benefit the thing, and overall there is an improvement of 38% ingestion time frame. So that is definitely a big time frame save if you have big large CSV files you are trying to bring into it. That's thanks, Brad. That is exactly what you need to do. Just use the parser version 2.0, and that definitely is going to improve your ingestion of CSV files into it.
I love it. This is awesome. Anytime you get speed and performance, you got to have that. It is critically important. And of course, when I was looking at this next blog, what I absolutely loved was the insight, speed, performance. Now you got the insight, and I'm talking about Shaholi Bikashi, unveiling Microsoft Fabric's impact on Power BI developers and analysts. And often we have very technical blogs, and what I loved is this was a little bit of technical but mixed with soft skills. And very specifically, what Shaholi does is he walks us through an explanation of let's say you've been using Power BI for quite some time and you're a Power BI user, what impact is this going to have on your world when it comes to the new Microsoft Fabric? So it goes through a history of Power BI. Clearly, you can see that I've been looking for ads for the Fisker Ocean because they are popping up all over the place. Good old cookies, right? He talks about what are the different types of Power BI users and then the classifications, the developers, the contributors, the consumers, the self-server analysts, the administrators. And then he talks a little bit about, hey, here are these different roles and here's how Fabric adjusts against these different roles. To be able to take a look at it. And so the conclusion that he really came to is you're going to have new technologies, you're going to have new languages that you look at learning. The nice thing is I think we've done a really good job with Data Wrangler, and the future is looking really bright with some of the things that we've already mentioned that we're working on with regards to Copilot. I know when we were doing the pre-show with Adam Saxton, that was the question that people already had on the top of their tongues was, what about this? And so on the public roadmap, we've even listed that some of those Copilot things we're looking at Q3 2024 and others in Q1 2024. So as those roll out, it's going to make their lives a lot easier to be able to allow that citizen developer to be able to do that additional work. But I found that to be fascinating from that soft skills perspective. And of course, when I think about fascinating, of course, this next presenter, always fascinating. Always piques my interest. And of course, I'm talking again about Mr. Andreas Padilla with how to use Postman to call Azure OpenAI APIs, a step-by-step tutorial. This is something, I'm not an API type of developer, but Andreas, give it to me. What do we got here?
Oh, you said it so buttery smooth. How to use Postman. Postman for OpenAI. I love this. Thank you, Jasleen, for putting this together. The other day, I was like, man, I got to get my Postman organized with OpenAI. I started, really sinking into it. I found this great post, this 6-minute read. It will set you up, get you going with you need your Postman prompts in order to, do your gets, your deletes, your updates, all that good jazz. No pun, sorry, jazz. But how to, work it with OpenAI. At the end of the day, he shows you how to set up your environment, how to make it secure, how to go get your key, how to go talk to your endpoint, how to set up your first initial prompt. But if you start sifting around and you work with it, you're going to find there's good samples out there. Once you get that going, how to start doing vector search, how to get, create your index with Azure Search, how to put your embeddings in one of the indexes. Little cool repository of all my posts that
is that me or is that Andreas? Nope. Okay. Hey, Andreas, you're breaking up on me a little bit, buddy. Yeah. Oh, and now you're frozen. Now you're frozen. Yep. Okay. So this is a wonderful article and you absolutely want to go check it out. And one of the things that I love about this is I'm not an API developer. So when we talk about Postman, it's something where sometimes I need a refresher and I need step-by-step. But as we get into streaming analytics and we start working with OpenAI more and we're working with different stream events over in Fabric, it's really important to understand how these things work. And when I think of important, I think of this next person because when they bring the links, they are important. And not only that, but they are by people that I truly value the importance of their opinion. And of course, I'm talking about the man in a hat, Mr. Josh Luedeman, with a blog announcing automatic data compaction to Fabric Warehouse by Mr. Kevin Conan, who I credit with coming up with the fabricator's name himself. He's the lead fabricator.
Yeah, and this is a great article just because this is an awesome feature added to, for the Fabric Warehouse. And the reason being, and again, I kind of go back to what I was talking about with the previous article about folks who are not necessarily accustomed yet to running in a lake type of data warehouse environment, and they're used to more of the relational. What happens is when you're building these Parquet files, they can't be changed, and it says it right there after they're created. They are immutable. So as you start doing ELT processes and adding data to your warehouse, you end up with a bunch of little files. The problem with that is it's not performance. So it's standard maintenance task. is to do what's called compaction and bring them together. What this does, Fabric actually does, is actually looks at the data and it'll rewrite and take those smaller files and put it into larger files. So it's actually watching your data when you're querying it and going, oh, this could have been better, right, if it was compacted. And it goes through after the fact and goes through and compacts the data. So it's just a great feature to kind of remove one of those pieces of maintenance, so that you don't have to worry about it. And so when I saw this drop, I was like, oh, yeah, this is awesome. This needs to be called out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is definitely good.
Yeah, go for it, Neeraj. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
No, I mean that definitely is a good way to do it. I mean that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice little easy button for our environments.
Yep.
Well, and I love it because it also takes care of those delete operations as well when we're doing updates and modifications, things like that. The way that the Delta log is shaped, it makes a new row entry. It marks the old ones to be deleted, helps process that so we can get those deletes out. We can make everything more efficient. Great stuff all around. And again, when I think of great stuff, of course, I'm talking about the one, the only Mr. Neeraj Jhaveri. Neeraj, the revolution of data and analytics in agriculture. This is fascinating. What do we got here?
So nice article by Satish Thomas. I mean, I was just doing some researching how or what people are using industry-wise, and then I found this article in agriculture. I mean, that is something I've never paid attention, but yeah, how this helps up on the agriculture side. Data analytics plays a bigger role. I mean, it really specifies how Microsoft is helping, and a particular data manager is helping them up to understand the data and bring it up. Another thing that as Fabric is coming up, it's also helping to integrate the whole findings of the data and all the stuff. So that is definitely something important that would help grow the agriculture part of it, help the farmers out there build it easier, understand the weather patterns, understand other stuffs in there, which would be really good to do. A nicely written article, and particularly he also mentions it out is generative AI, right? I mean, how generative AI is going to be helping it out in future, and there is all POCs, all things that are happening right now between Microsoft and Bayer, finding it out, or interaction with data through the language, generative AI language and models in there. So nicely, I mean, something that made sense, like, okay, wow, how practical use of your resources that we work with every day to day, how industries are using it up, and that definitely is something fascinating for me.
Absolutely, and keep in mind that the description of the video has all of the links in it, and of course, I don't know if folks are in Hanover, Germany, but if they are, apparently the 12th to the 18th,
yes.
There's some live sessions occurring right here. So really, really great stuff, Neeraj, as always. Really enjoyable. We've got two Andreases. One of them's going to resolve. Eventually, he's going to be back here with us. There we go.
There he is.
All right. So I'm up next, and what I've got a great blog by Mr. Thomas Martins, Select, Detect, Act, or Why I Consider Reflex being a watchdog. Now, Reflex is, of course, part of Data Activator. And what I love about this is he talks about a very specific use case. He's got a previous blog where one of the things he did was he talked about how he uses an on-premise data gateway and a Delta table to be able to store, he stores a table record of the status of his in-premise data gateways. And then what he does is he uses a specific measure to be able to figure out the status of those data gateways. So what did he do? Well, because he's got this in a Power BI report, if one of the on-prem data gateways goes down, he's able to then create a trigger using Data Activator to be able to create an email alert based off the status of that table. So when his data gateways on-prem are down, he gets an alert, which generates an email. So that way he is alerted to the status of his data gateways. This week, I was actually talking with a customer when we were talking about how to bring some monitoring to bear. And the fact is, if we have the data absorbed in Microsoft Fabric, we have it displayed in a Power BI report, we can create alerts and events off of logging metrics that we might not have previously been able to. We've got a capability to customize this now. And if you put it in, of course, KQL database, maybe you're real-time streaming something via a Logic event app to an event hub, to an event stream, then you could essentially have real-time alerting on the status of metric deployments using Microsoft Fabric and kind of the host of stuff we've got. That's actually, as we develop that architecture, that might be a video that we bring to you. But I absolutely love this blog by Thomas because it was showing something that we've kind of already thought about and something that we're looking at doing with a customer. Very, very, very cool stuff, how this all starts to come together. Josh, I figured that would speak to you a little bit too, because I know you're very, very, when you heard about Data Activator, Data Activator kind of got your developer mindset, your automation task flow heart just kind of beating a little faster.
Oh yeah, yeah. And so you noticed too, when you were going through the scenario, I'm going, oh yeah, there's another good use case for it. And kicking off notifications based off of, I was even thinking refresh failure. I hadn't even gotten to gateway stuff, but that's awesome.
Yeah, really, really awesome. As a matter of fact, I want to talk with our internal team because I'm sure there's things like this where we could build a reference architecture to then be able to make public. And I think there's just some really cool opportunities here to be able to have a made by Microsoft and used by Microsoft type of functionality to this. But yeah, Thomas, way to go, buddy. You're sitting there on the bleeding edge, and we're here for it. And speaking for something that I am totally here for, I am totally here for this next man because he's always on the bleeding edge. And of course, I'm talking about Mr. Andreas Padilla, who's back with us. MLOps spanning whole machine learning life cycles, a paper summary. Andreas, what do we got here?
Oh, well, it's good to be back. The Matrix hit me up. So, but I'm back with Ivo Medeiros, great article on MLOps and all the different steps that go on in the life cycle for your AI model. So I'll be talking to, I'll talk to clients from time, some customers come to us and they say, hey, Andreas, can you help us out? What could we be adding to our MLOps lifecycle? And I'll start talking to them like, have you done, do you have the proper data? Do you have, how are you testing the model? Are you doing data integrity tests? What else could you add to that life cycle to make sure that the final product is as refined and pure as possible? If you look at that graph, at that picture, that big picture that he has in that article, follow that, and then you start digging into each one of those components. You won't necessarily throw all of this in, and the kitchen sink at your AI model, but it's a good guide for you to have in your back pocket and be like, what else should I be doing? Integration tests. Should I be doing data drift? Should I be data model precision tests? There's a bunch of stuff that you can throw at it. In theory, great. You probably won't, do it in practice, but it's good to know that it's there. If you wanted to add a little bit more, magic sauce to your life cycle.
Yeah, I when I think about the magic sauce, I'm thinking about shake and bake, baby, right? Mm-hmm. We got the 1-2 punch starting with Ricky Bobby, and of course, when I think of that, I think of if you're not first, you're last, but last sometimes is number one in my heart. And of course, I'm talking about Mr. Josh Luedeman with importing NFX and third-party DLLs into Azure SQL Managed Instance. This is a level of configuration I didn't even know we could do, Josh. What do we got going on here?
No, neither did I. So when I found the article, I was like, oh yeah, this has got to go up there. So what this is talks about the capability we have for putting third-party DLLs into Azure SQL MI. And just like you, Brad, when I thought about this in the past, that always kind of was a gate for me in the architecture decision matrix that you would go through and go, yep, we're going to have to go to a VM. We're not going to be able to go past. But what this opens up is scenarios like if you want to put the NewSoft JSON DLL and upload it into your instance in SQL MI, things like that. You can actually, this walks you through that capability, to be able to do that. Now, granted, SQL Server and SQL MI come with some basic DLLs already there, like the Oracle, XML Link, all those, the standard ones, which, and as it says in here, calls out, good for most use cases, but the Newtonsoft is what grabbed my attention because you and I, Brad, have done a decent amount with Newtonsoft before looking at JSON data and stuff like that and being able to translate that. This can actually be in there. You can actually import it now into your database, and it walks you through importing those those DLLs, those assemblies, and walking you through the whole process. I just thought it was great from there. I'm like, oh, I didn't know you could do this. So if I didn't know, I knew there was more than just me that didn't know. At least one other person. I'm not saying I'm the most up to date.
I was going to say I didn't know either. So there we go. All right. Well, fantastic job, everybody. This leads us to the wrap up, and we're already at Live 360, so we don't have anything really to talk about just yet. But what I do want to say is we're about a year and a half in. We're coming up to the first holiday break. We're going to hit Thanksgiving. We hope everybody in the U.S. has a very happy Thanksgiving holiday. We will be back for, I want to say, 2 or 3 weeks after the break. And then we will be taking a break for the last 2 weeks of December. And during that time, our feed will be filled with Away from the Fields. There's going to be a whole bunch of food that we make. There's going to be good times that we have. I'm going on a cruise, so I'm hoping to at least match Dan's mountain beautifulness with some ocean zen that we get during cruise time. And of course, there's going to be all the holiday fun. Neeraj, I'm hoping to see some snow up in New Jersey, buddy.
Yep.
Because I miss that down in Florida. But we want to thank you very much. Make sure that you have a very safe and happy holidays. For Daniel Taylor, Andreas Padilla, Neeraj Jhaveri, Josh Luedeman, I'm Bradley Ball. Thank you so much for joining us from Tales from the Field. Be good to one another and take care out there. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Have a good holiday.
Today's gonna be a good day. Wake up. Today's gonna be a good day.